Welcome to the Whole Health Podcast, where we discuss science-backed information to help you optimize your health. I'm Jonathan Jarecki, and I'm a dedicated student passionate about health optimization and preventative medicine. Today, I am honored to introduce John Galamaga. John is a licensed massage therapist, certified personal trainer from the Culprit Institute in Dallas, and a senior master instructor in Llamas Qigong. John has profound knowledge in alternative medicine and has done extensive research in the field. With over 40 years of experience, John is a foremost expert in preventative health. Before we dive into our discussion, I want to share my personal connection with John, which will set the stage for our conversation. My family has known John since before I was born, and with his influence has profoundly shaped our lives. John's guidance transformed my mother's approach to raising her children, adding precious years to her mother's life, my grandma, and profoundly improving my father's health. By the time my mom was pregnant with me, her fourth child, she was fully committed to John's teachings. I consider myself a living testament to the lifestyle John advocates. My journey includes a completely natural childbirth with John's wife, Mindy Galamaga, as her doula, being breastfed, and never once having a vaccine, antibiotic, or any conventional medication like Tylenol or Advil. Raised as a vegan and vegetarian, I never consumed meat, chicken, or fish. My mom found that medical interventions were not required if you focus on holistic healing and a healthy lifestyle. This unique upbringing has afforded me a completely different lifestyle as many others my age. While I've had my share of very minor colds, as people like to call them, I believe it's a natural process God designed us to heal. In line with that belief, my mom never relied on medication or doctors, choosing instead to heal naturally. I firmly believe that the lifestyle John promotes has significantly enhanced my life and my health. I'm not here to brag, but inspire others to explore alternative paths to well-being without having to rely on the healthcare system. My story aims to encourage and empower you to find your own path to health. It's important to remember that sickness was never part of God's original design for his creation. The presence of illness is a consequence of the brokenness of this world. However, by striving to align our lifestyles with God's intentions, we can pursue a healthier, more harmonious existence. I'd also like to mention that due to John's limited time, this episode is only an hour long. While we couldn't nearly cover everything in as much depth as we'd like, this conversation aims to spark your interest in preventative health. My goal is to have John back on the podcast in the future, where we'll dive even deeper into the topics we discussed today. Meanwhile, I've curated extensive show notes with all the science to back up John's insights, including books and references mentioned. Please feel free to check them out to explore the topics discussed further. So, with that being said, I encourage you to listen with open ears and an open mind. Keep questioning the so-called experts and remain receptive to different perspectives. Now, let's dive into our conversation with John Galamaga. John, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. It's a real pleasure. You've impacted my life a lot, so it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Being the first podcast episode of the Whole Health Podcast, so I'm excited.
Very excited to be here. Yeah, this is awesome.
Perfect. All right, so today we're going to be talking about a lot of different things: stretching, movement, diet. We're trying to cover a lot of different topics here. But before we get into that, why don't you tell us just a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Okay, well, when I grew up, I was the sickest kid in school. So tonsillitis, colds and flus, sore throat. My dad was a doctor, overweight doctor. He'd give me penicillin, and then I'd be laying in bed 7 to 10 days. Then my mom would come and give me a fried bologna sandwich, big glass of milk,
Uh-huh.
And then I'm wondering why it's taking so long to get back to school.
Yeah.
So this was ongoing through grade school and high school.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, I was a good student, so I never really missed out on that. But it always kind of was like confusing to me, like, what's going on? So, I got into doing my sports and everything, and that was good. And then when I got into college, started doing a lot of working out. And obviously, when you're in college working out, you want to have muscle. So the conventional wisdom is to eat a lot of protein, right? So we were pounding down, a couple hundred grams of animal protein a day, and doing all the whey shakes and all the things you shouldn't do, thinking it was the proper thing.
Yeah.
Then one day I was doing these standing squats, and all of a sudden I fell on my back, got these tremendous waves of chest pain, freaked me out.
Yeah.
Went to get up. It was like, oh my God, I can't move. Like, what's going on? So I was having a heart attack. So that like kind of shook me up.
Wow.
So once I collected myself, went home, and then we had a friend that was the head of cardiology at Mercy Hospital in Coconut Grove down by Miami. So set an appointment, went there, did a whole stress test, the whole shebang. So after all the guy looked at the information, he said, well, look, you're going to need a valve replacement when you turn 40. This is when I was 20. You got to stop working out. And I said, that's it. Like, I don't have plan B. And I said, that's basically what you got going on. And I said, okay, thank you very much. And I left there and I was like, really? I can't work out. That's my religion. Like, you know what it's like. You can't work out. You feel like you're deprived. And so I started looking for something different. I didn't know what that something was, but I thought there's got to be something else out there. So lo and behold, I see an ad for a nutritional lecture. And wouldn't you know, it's Dr. Campbell from the China study. So like I hit the lottery from the start on this information being real, true, accurate. So I went and I'm saying, oh my God, this guy's saying, I don't need valve replacement. I get back working out. There's a lot of high performance athletes doing this type of plant-based approach and they're doing phenomenal. So I embraced it. And within like a week, I get none of those problems. I'm back to working out. So I was super happy. So then but that was the beginning of the shift in my awareness.
So you did a 180 from eating high protein.
Right. So I was on that
vegan?
traditional high protein acid bodybuilders type diet.
Wow. Okay. And you just did complete shift right away.
Well, I got scared.
Okay.
See, and that's what I found over the years working with people. It takes some life altering event for most people to wake up, to be willing to change. I was lucky. I got it early. So I got scared enough that never happened to me. I'm sure I would have continued on and have all kinds of problems today. So that was my great fortune to have that event. And as time went by, I always kept my eyes open and looked for better ways, to incorporate more and more.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, so you mentioned you were eating this high protein animal diet. Switched to this vegan diet, right? And then it was completely vegan at that time, or when you switched?
Well, back in those days, you were the weirdo if you were the vegan. Now you're the cool guy, The trend was not so favorable, and people would tolerate you, but you're the oddball. So it was a little bit off-putting for me. I didn't really want to talk about it much because you didn't get much acceptance. So,
of course,
especially with the guys I was working out with, we had our workout crew.
What did they think of it?
Well, they saw it was the same group of guys every day. We're in that gym. It was a Vic Tanny gym.
The same guys that saw you fall when you were
we had a group of 6 guys. We were like a workout team. And they witnessed my situation, so they knew something happened. And this is what I found to be a good start to make those changes. And when they saw I was back to working out, they said, that's pretty good. But it was still a different approach, So I felt confident that I was on the right path. And then as time went by, and I was considering medical school, but it's like they don't teach you anything in terms of wellness. So then I said, okay, what's the next best thing, which would be exercise. So I graduated from University of Miami and then got into doing fitness training.
Wow. Okay.
And then it was so congested in Miami, moved up to Boca Raton. So then I met my first client and then started doing...
Being a personal trainer?
Here.
Okay. And then, so you got you're a personal trainer. Right now you're a massage therapist, right?
Right. So I've shifted away doing more therapy work for stretching for people.
Gotcha. All right.
Because everyone is getting too tight. And I said, okay, I'm just another guy making everybody tight. I'm going to go the other way and help them loosen up.
All right. So let's talk about that. So stretching. So you do a specific form of stretching called AIS, right? Active isolated stretching. So why don't you talk about how you discovered AIS? Okay. And then what is AIS?
All right. So that was, again, an accidental conversation. There used to be, I used to live in Deerfield, a little microbiotic restaurant called the Granary, which was... there weren't a lot of places to get these plant foods, and that was a good place. So I would go there often and always catch it when I would finish work right at the tail end when they were getting ready to close. They were nice enough to, let me sit down and eat.
Nice.
So one of the waiters there He was also a massage therapist.
Okay.
And I was just finishing my massage school training, get ready to take the state test. And he said, so what are you going to do next? Because he just learned like a basic like spa massage type thing.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. What do you suggest? He goes, there's this amazing type of stretching called AIS. The guy's out in Sarasota.
Yep.
You ought to check it out because there's nothing like it. So I said, thank you very much. So I looked it up, and there was a workshop. That was when Aaron Mattis was coming here to the Boca area at FAU. So I signed up and took it. And the active isolated stretching is different from other methods in that the length of time you hold the stretch is only 1.5 to 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Now, we go to any gym right now, any physical therapy office, any yoga studio, everyone's holding it much longer.
Yeah.
Some yogas now hold up to 10 minutes in yoga. So now people are saying, this is so great. There's all these celebrities just praising yin yoga as being fabulous. So fortunately, again, I was exposed to some very intelligent expert who, when he was younger, was headed to the Olympics as a power lifter.
Yeah.
Got this amazing strength from his training, and on the construction site that he was working on, was able to pick up these super heavy tie beams. Normally you need a forklift. And it was during the winter months up north. He went to throw some of these into the truck. He planted his foot on a patch of ice unknowingly, slipped, fell back in his back, herniated 4 discs. All those Olympic dreams were shattered in an instant. So he's laying in bed, level 10 pain. No one could fix him. So he's saying, what am I going to do? No money coming in. He just had a little baby, freaking out. So he said, I got to figure something. So he just decided to hold the stretch less and less time. And lo and behold, that rehabbed him.
Wow.
Got well and said, I'm going to become a stretch guy.
Yeah.
And then he developed this over the years. And then because of his incredible, just accidental finding this, started to get a reputation as the go-to guy. And then some professional athletes started going there. And next thing you know, he's like the underground guru of stretching.
Yeah.
So I got lucky. I went to the first workshop, was blown away. So, that was my introduction to it.
And so this is Aaron Mattis, right?
Aaron Mattis, yeah. This is a guy who was a regular guy, got hurt, could not find any, and it went not just medical, but holistic too. Everyone in the outside of the conventional medical world couldn't help him either because they were holding it too long.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you have AIS stretching. So obviously you were into fitness before this. You seemed like you were very open-minded, right?
Right. So I'm saying, okay, I'm getting a taste of something really good.
Yeah.
Right. So then I always was looking for more. So as I started practicing the stretching, people have all these different complaints, and then you start discussing them, and then it's like you try to make good suggestions to people. Yeah. And there was one guy, and I was trying to, after I read the China study a million times and just could memorize it and word by word, I started trying to share this information with people. Yeah. And one time, one guy said to me, "This is great, but just hand me a plate of food. Like, I don't want to have to engineer it."
Yeah.
So I said, "Wow, that's an interesting perspective."
Yeah.
So then I said, "Well, how can I accomplish that? I have no experience with health food store or anything like that, or catering." And then that kind of just happened on its own. Yeah. So I got an opportunity because I had a client whose partner was getting a lot of mini strokes. And I said, "Look, check out the China study. Yeah. Great book. It'll help you reduce your inflammation." Yeah. So we checked with his doctor. He said, you don't do it with food, So I said, "Look, just do it out of skepticism. Give me 6 weeks, eat a certain way. And my guess is you'll do great." So his CRP was very high, as was his partner's. I started getting all the strokes. So 6 weeks goes by, he goes back to the doctor. It's under 1. So he was blown away. So he had a lot of retail space in town. Wow. So he gave me an offer to set up. He said, because back then, again, there was like no organic food stores. It was a real unique thing. Yeah. So I had an opportunity to start a tiny little 900 square foot place. Yeah. And found a chef, found a vitamin guy, and all of a sudden it's all kind of just fell in my lap. That's awesome. And made it happen. That was like going better than any medical school training. Yeah. So I got like day-to-day, hands-on experience.
Yeah. And so was this before, or was this after you got into AIS?
So this is after. So then,
Okay.
so then I'm trying to help people and trying to get an understanding of this whole inflammatory situation.
Yeah.
Knowing that food is a big part of that.
Yeah, gotcha. So you're doing the health food store, as well as
And then
AIS?
I'm doing more of the fitness training with a little bit of stretching thrown in
Yeah.
as I'm getting more and more proficient at it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so I want to go a little bit deeper into AIS. So why specifically is the 2-second hold so important rather than holding this for 30 seconds?
Okay, so you have a protective mechanism called the stretch reflex. So if I'm moving your leg, I'm moving your leg, all of a sudden you're starting to get a little uncomfortable and it's like, whoa, you can't go anymore.
Yeah.
That's the stretch reflex kicking in. So you can go 1.5 times beyond that without getting injured.
Yeah.
If I get too intensive or you're out playing a sport and you go beyond that, that's how you get the injury. So this guy, Aaron Mattis, when he rehabilitated himself, just out of dumb luck found this out. Then because he was attracting these guys like Michael Jordan, healing injuries quickly, he was able to get access to medical personnel to prove that this method was superior. So at this point, there was a guy played for the Detroit Lions, Mike Utley, who was a defensive lineman, tackled someone, broke his neck on the field, and it was a big drama that one Sunday, took a while. They got him up, got him on a stretcher, carried him off the field, and do 2 thumbs up. So he became famous for that.
Yeah.
Then he couldn't move. He was paraplegic. Someone in his family heard of Aaron Mattis because he was doing some really amazing therapeutic work with these special spinal cases, MS, ALS, all these neurodegenerative conditions. And the theory is that it's all about the connective tissue's role in helping your circulation do better. So you're transmitting signals, you're transmitting blood flow, lymph flow, and G flow better.
Yeah.
So they said, what do we got to lose? Let's go down there, check this guy out. Maybe he can help him with his situation. So Aaron said, this is a good opportunity for me to have a science guy come in and prove that this method actually does the job. So he brought in this doctor from Washington, D.C., and there is a book. He did 800 experiments, hooked the machine up, electromyograph, EMG, to his leg, let everyone in the medical profession have a crack at him, everyone in the holistic community have a crack at him, everyone was holding it longer than 2 seconds, and you could see the spasticity of the leg getting worse, and the machine was screeching in the red zone, showing that it was aggravating his nervous system.
Wow.
So then everyone had their turn. Then Aaron Mattis' turn came up, started doing the 2-second hold. You could see the leg calming down, and then the machine was calming down because it was reflecting the benefit that the nervous system was actually getting a relaxation response.
You said there's a book on this?
There is, and I wrote it down, and I never got it, and I still have to get my hands on that book.
Okay, do you know the title of it?
I don't.
Okay.
And I called Aaron maybe a year ago to order some supplies, and I asked his wife, can you please get that name? And I never heard back. So before he dies, I got to get the name of that book.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, it's a proven fact that this is a real scientific truth.
Yeah. Wow.
You hold it longer than that, and you're not only causing irritation, you're actually causing harm.
Yeah.
You're getting
harm scar tissue, right?
You're getting a reduction in circulation because the muscles are tensed.
Yeah.
A continual eccentric contraction doesn't enhance blood flow, it restricts it. So if I start choking you, I'm going to reduce blood flow to your brain.
Yeah.
You're going to not feel so good.
Yeah.
Same thing's happening at the site of holding that stretch too long. So the conventional theory is hold it longer, you're going to get better benefit. But in reality, at the 3rd second, you're starting to damage that tissue, and you're going to start to create a worse case scenario. So, but still, everyone still does it. It doesn't make any sense. But this information isn't really getting on the street, which it should.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but it's a proven fact that you're going to cause harm.
Yeah. Wow. It's crazy because, you see all these people holding this stretch for so long, and then, you hear maybe it's not good for you,
Well,
and
it's hard for people to embrace that.
Yeah, because they've been trained. Exactly.
You go to a physical therapist, it's spent a bunch of years going to school.
Yeah.
They learn a certain way. They don't want to hear anything else.
Yeah.
Because what they learned is what they learned.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the beauty of it is anyone that might have to get a hip or knee replacement, if they haven't been in an accident and all the bones are shattered, they don't need that hip or knee replacement.
Yeah. I want you to talk a little bit about that. So injury prevention with AA.
Right. So that's the key. You're
And
getting
surgical prevention.
right. So you're getting and if you do it daily,
Yeah.
and Aaron has a great tagline. He says stretching is a daily sentence.
Yeah.
So very easy not to do it, but if you can carve out a little time each day, you're going to get progressively more flexible.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it every day, you're going to get progressively tighter.
Yeah.
That's just a given.
Mm-hmm.
So there's however much time you can devote to it, a real value, and especially if you're into working out or playing sports, to prevent injury.
Yeah.
If you do get injured, you're going to heal at 50% quicker because you're increasing blood flow. If you have a medical problem, that's also going to improve because you're going to increase circulation. So him working on people that have been in car accidents, who've had medical problems, they give him feedback that, hey, my osteoporosis is better. I got 60% bone density increase in 6 months.
Yeah.
That's unheard of, taking a drug.
It's amazing.
So it's the enhancement of blood flow, which increases the cellular environment to get better of the good in and more of the bad out. So it's this whole waste management, oxygen promoting effect that's very dynamic.
Yeah. All right. So you also mentioned chi flow, right? So doing this AIS can increase your chi flow.
Right.
I want to talk a little bit about Qigong.
Right.
So kind of tell us, a lot of people in the health space aren't talking about Qigong.
No, it's not. It's not like yoga.
Yeah.
You know, someone brought yoga here and then slowly but surely became huge industry. Qigong is in its infancy.
Yeah.
Now, you have a lot of guys talking about different methods of meditation. Tai Chi is more popular. That's probably more recognized. There are health clubs and country club gyms around here teaching Tai Chi.
Yeah.
That has a value because of the fact that you're getting a different internal response as you move slowly. The faster you move, if we went to spinning class, you're going to get more fit. Problem is the blood's moving too fast through the cardiovascular system, and the chi flows concentrically around the red blood cell. It actually gets weaker. If you move slowly, breathe deep and slow in conjunction when synchronizing in that to the movement, the chi actually gets stronger. So now there's a lot of medical studies showing that you're going to burn out your mitochondria if you get into too much intensity with your exercise.
Yeah.
So there's some awareness with that now on the zone 2 exercise concept. You only go 60% of your max.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of good articles out there proving you take someone on a high intensity, say a spinning bike for an hour, take a tissue sample out, put that in a test tube, let them ride the bike, take a second tissue sample out of the quadricep, send it to a lab that can measure mitochondria, you're at a net loss of energy.
Wow. Yeah.
It does not come back. You spent that principle. Now, you may have gotten a fitness benefit, an endurance training benefit. So if you have to go back to spinning class, you can keep up with everyone else, or if you're a runner or running a marathon or a race. However, you've just lost that. You've become more inflamed, and the net effect is you just went to put a few more mitochondria to sleep.
Yeah.
Now your immune system has just gotten weaker.
Yeah.
So this is the missing link in exercise right now.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned like slow movements. We'll get back to Qigong in a second. But fitness. So you obviously were big into you used to run in college, right?
Right. So I ran cross country in high school.
In high school.
And then continued on with that belief that there was value in engaging in an aerobic component.
Yeah.
As with the weights. Okay. So stretching always took a backseat. That was always the least priority I had.
Yeah.
And growing up, I never got better because I was always very tight. And all the coaches said, hold it for 30 seconds. Then I got frustrated. I said, well, why even do it? It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
So as I got into it more and more, I realized, hey, you know what? There's a value in working on getting this more incorporated into the mix. it just makes a huge difference.
Yeah. You're running a lot.
Right. So then I got into a,
So how,
I had a client that said, okay, I want to give you the world's best personal training course.
Okay.
So he sent me to Dallas. There was a guy, Kenneth Cooper, who was a medical doctor, wrote all the books on aerobic training. He's like the grandfather of aerobic medical training.
Yeah.
Has a 30-acre facility, beautiful place. Dallas Cowboys train there. So I went there all excited, came back, now ready to share high intensity interval training with clients. Thinking this is fabulous. I'm going to be enhancing them in every regard, not knowing I actually was promoting their demise.
Yeah. Wow. So, all right. So so I know you talk about like athlete's heart, right? So when you're doing this cardio,
so when you
you're
move
the muscle
fast,
Yeah.
okay, you're creating a stress. There's a certain threshold of benefit that you now lose when you cross over that line of intensity. Because you're generating massive amounts of lactic acid, you're draining your chi account, and the consequence of that is it's like getting a tight muscle. You're getting an inflamed heart.
Yeah.
Any workout, you do bicep curls, your biceps are going to get bigger over time. Same thing with the heart. It gets larger, hypertrophies. Now you're saying, what's wrong with that? It's a bigger pump. You're getting more blood gushing through.
Yeah.
Problem is the valves stay the original same size. So it's not technically heart disease, but it is a valve condition that, and I've had clients, so I mentioned, you might want to bump it back a little bit on the intensity.
Yeah.
You get to a point where the heart grows, the valves stay the same size, they're working harder because of the larger amount of volume of blood and stronger gush. They break down sooner. And then relative to your lifestyle that's calcifying that valve, you're going to need a procedure. And they do valve replacements left and right.
Yeah.
Which there should have been an awareness that if you would have only bumped it back a little bit on the intensity, that would have never occurred. But that, again, is not widely known because there are people out there not even considering that fact.
Yeah.
But it's a real deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Definitely.
it doesn't reverse.
Yeah.
There's a lot of conditions in the body can reverse. When you have that enlarged heart, it stays with you, even if you stop any cardio from that moment forward.
Wow.
So that's the challenge.
Yeah. So I was reading this paper. It's titled Lifelong Endurance Exercise and Its Relation with Coronary Atherosclerosis.
Right.
It was published in 2023. And what was so fascinating, so I'll just quickly go over this because it's related to what we're talking about.
Right.
The study had 3 groups of people. There was over 500 participants, split up into 3 groups. The control groups, people who exercise less than 3 hours a week. The late onset endurance athletes, which were athletes who did heavy endurance training after they were 30 years old. And the study tells you how many hours a week, but it was many hours a week, much more than the controls. And then the lifelong endurance athletes, which were people who practice endurance training before they were 30 years old, all the way up to the current day. And what the paper actually found was that, I'll just read this like take-home message and then also show you what it found. It said, lifelong endurance sports participation is not associated with more favorable coronary plaque composition compared to a healthy lifestyle. That healthy lifestyle, they're referring to the control group. And so they found that lifelong endurance athletes compared to controls had a 2.8, almost 3 times greater chance of having more than one proximal non-calcified plaque in their arteries. So basically what they found was that these endurance training athletes, high endurance training athletes, had more plaque in their arteries and in their heart than these control groups who trained less than 3 hours a week. So I think this is a really fascinating study.
Yeah,
published in a great article.
Yeah.
So and it's out there, but unfortunately it's not.
But it's not popular.
It's not popular.
And no one is really pushing it to the point where it's embraced as, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
The new trend.
Yeah.
There was a slow motion gym that opened in Boca about 20 years ago, could be even 25 years. They call it Super Slow. And you see the same workout people all the time.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, well, this is something different. Let's check it out. No one ever came back after the first visit. Because you get a guy maybe used to lifting, say, 50-pound dumbbells, bicep curls. To do slow motion exercise properly, you got to drop the weight way down.
Yeah.
So they're going to feel like a wimp doing 20-pound dumbbells. Psychologically, it's going to, give them nightmares.
Yeah.
So that concept never took off.
Yeah.
Now, at least you got a guy like Peter Attia saying do zone 2 because of their research on heart inflammation.
Yeah.
So people like him. He's a popular guy. That's getting out a little bit more, but there's still way more too many people doing this high intensity work.
Yeah.
Because all the trend is that gives you value for health and fitness.
Yeah. So what should people be doing instead?
All right. So Chinese medicine says the faster you move, the faster you die.
Yeah.
It really boils down to waste management in your body. If you have the capacity to remove these things faster than they're accumulating, you stay well. Eventually, we will all asphyxiate on our waste products. If you engage in multiple layers of lifestyle change to facilitate that accomplishment, you're going to do better. The typical high-intensity person is consuming a very more acid-oriented diet that's contributing to this plaque buildup and calcification buildup. So if you can engage in a different perspective and be okay with that, change a little bit on the food, understand what you're really doing to accomplish that goal, this will not build up in you. But this needs to get out there more because if you just sample people off the street, they're not aware of this.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So that's your job.
Yeah. 100%. All right. So getting back to Qigong a little bit, why don't you talk about Master Lo?
Okay.
And maybe how you discovered him, how
Sure.
you found him, and then also talk about Llamas Qigong.
So then Qigong has been around for about 8,000 years. I went to the same guy that gave me a scholarship to go to Dallas, said it Kenneth Cooper.
Yeah.
There was a John Henry, the guy in Boca, gave $1.5 million to Boca Raton Hospital to open up a satellite version of the Harvard Mind Body Center.
Okay.
Which has humble beginnings in the early 70s, and then now it's a big deal. They teach all kinds of different methods of meditation, Qigong, Tai Chi. So when this energy medicine conference was announced in Hawaii, they're all the top doctors doing energy healing, Qigong, physicists getting involved with all these things. Were gathering and they wanted to go. There's no money in their budget. So he said, if you go and video all the lectures, I'll pay your way. So I went. The most dynamic lecture that I saw was about Qigong. So this was the head of physics. At that point in time, this is now 25 years ago. Okay. There was a doctor in China, this guy Yan Xin, is Y-I-N-X-I-N, is a medical doctor who was the top Qigong doctor in China, who had this amazing popularity where he would be, it was like going to a football game, 30,000 people in the stadium. He's emitting Qi and people are flailing around getting these spontaneous healings. So it sounds very odd, like a very poor science fiction movie.
Yeah.
But this head of physics, who's a very intelligent guy, very credible scientist, is saying, this is the best thing in the world that you can engage in. Should be on the front page of the New York Times every day. So I'm saying, wow, what is Qigong? Like, I want to learn. So I came back and was looking for a class, and you really couldn't find much of a class. So I started finding, there was something down at University of Miami. It was a professor teaching this Yan Xin method. So I would go there once a week on Fridays. And they wouldn't let me in because I was the only non-Chinese guy. But because the drywall was so thin, I could eavesdrop in the class. I would wait in the hall. And I did this for probably about 3 months. Wow. But I was so determined to learn, I didn't give up because I couldn't find the information anywhere else. So then I didn't really appreciate the reception that I got, but I had nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So then I saw another workshop coming up on Llamas Qigong. I said, I'll check it out. So I went, and it was a family-style Qigong that was in this family for 3,000 years. All the men were Qigong healers. Now, what I found is that there's many, many different styles of Qigong. The ones that make a difference are the ones that remove the sick Qi. So in the medical world of Qigong healing, some are better than others, okay? The real secret is they look at the body being invaded by this chaotic, sick energy that we know nothing about, but it's feeding on everyone 24/7. And then the things that we do on top of that that we shouldn't, like what we're talking about with the high intensity exercise that burns out your chi, the high protein diet, which gives you no minerals to hold on to your battery charge. So I said, wow, that's a different approach. What's sick chi? It sounds like again, like a weird Twilight Zone movie. There's a boogeyman out there feeding on me.
Yeah.
So it kind of got my attention and started studying. And it really makes a difference in the outcome of getting your body stronger. And again, it boils down to this concept of getting a stronger battery, keeping your mitochondria intact. The sick chi, which is an invasive positive magnetic field, it's just like the alkaline water. So in other words, a negative ORP in water is better than a positive ORP in water, which is the negative charge of the water molecule. Same thing with chi. Good chi and bad chi it's in all of us. You want a balance, the yin yang balance. You don't want more of the bad chi than the good chi. It's just like in your gut. If you have 100 billion microorganisms, you want more good than bad. So if you balance all these things out, you come out ahead. So the real secret is, just like you brush your teeth every day, you got to clean your energy. You got to clean your chi.
Yeah.
By removing this sick chi component, which is a real unknown in a lot of the Qigongs that are accepted as being valuable. And that's the difference. Now, on the other side of the coin, then you strengthen your kidney. So when you end up getting in your piggy bank account more voltage, real DC volts, you're putting in the account. That stimulates the mitochondria to produce more oxygen to fight microorganisms. We are now in the day and age of AMR. It's the biggest global health threat, antimicrobial resistance. These bugs are getting super duper versions of themselves. 5 years ago, if you got an infection, you take a certain antibiotic, it will wipe it out. Today, it might not even touch it. So the little guys that weren't killed off are mutating. We are not mutating faster than the microorganisms, so we're now vulnerable. So what the saying is, by 2050, 50 million people will die a year of antimicrobial resistance. There will not be an antibiotic strong enough that won't kill you also. So then what are you going to do in the meantime to strengthen your immune system in this crazy world of stress, discontent, chaos? Turn on the news. I mean, it's what's going on. So that being said, how are you going to survive? How are you going to thrive? And it's all based on these basic principles of Qigong. Movement, how you move, how you breathe, what you drink, the environment you live in, how you control your stress. So if you get these little extra nuances, just like eating a certain way, you can always do a little bit better version of that, but it all ties in under the main category of Qi enhancement, mitochondrial enhancement, immune system enhancement. It's all different sayings for the same thing.
Yeah.
So if you can find a system that appreciates that, you're going to do much better.
Yeah. You mentioned voltage. I know you have a story with Master Low, right, about him showing his voltage compared to yours and a couple other people.
So you have you're alive, I'm alive, he's alive. Just like in your piggy bank, you have a savings account, I have a savings account. I might have $1,000 in my account. You may have $100,000 in your account. You have more in your account. Same thing with energy in your body. We call it energy, but energy is a byproduct of Qi. So you have voltage, you have DC current that is residing within every cell, which are all little batteries that can be measured through a device that you use in the wall outlet that an electrician would use to see if that outlet is working. So, another physicist from back in those days, William Tiller, who was the head of physics at USC, wrote a book called Transformation of Human Consciousness. So all the Ivy League school physics professors of that time 25 years ago were so immersed in this Yanshan Qigong.
Wow.
They all wrote books about it. They all were doing a Qigong club out of the physics department. It was like the rage in the physics world.
Yeah. We need that back today.
We need, absolutely.
Yeah.
So any high-powered Qigong master, and it's in Dr. Tiller's book, will register anywhere from 280 to 300 real DC volts. A normal person, even a Qigong student, because they have been raised in that environment from day one, is alive, has a chi, has energy. They hold on to the probe. It's not going to be as strong as an advanced Qigong master. And then when he held on to that, it went to 280 real volts. So everyone's saying, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So then we all held it. And we thought, what happened to this thing? Did it break? So he said, you need a picovolt meter, a lesser voltage instrument to pick up what little you guys have, although you're dedicated students to learn.
Yeah.
At this point in time, that's what you need to register some type of quantification.
Yeah.
Now, back in those days, that was a $50,000 nanotech instrument. So I'm saying to myself, how can I possibly share this with people without proving the fact that, yeah, you're weak. Your tank is low. You need to build it up. So that was an eye opener for me. And to this day, I'm still working on trying to get some type of a meter going. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. All right. Last little thing on Qigong. I know Mashfilo practices this sungazing. Right. You've introduced this to me and my mom. We go out there to the beach in the mornings and during sunrise for first 30 minutes. Right. You stare at the sun. And it's a nice meditative practice. So maybe I have like 3 little questions. So what, how, and why. So what is sun gazing? How do you practice it, and why should we?
Okay, so this has been around for thousands of years. Nothing new.
Yeah,
it's been utilized by so-called primitive people that were spiritual-based, nature-loving people who knew how to extract this natural process to enhance their well-being. So basically, what you're doing is, relative to your vantage point, if you're living on the beach and or you drive to the beach, get up early, you're going to get more if it's a clear morning, that 30-minute safe time. If you're inland, you got to wait for it to clear over the top of the trees or the house next to you, whatever. You basically stare directly in the sun. If you wear contacts or reading glasses, you got to take them off.
Yeah.
You're engaging basically just like you're hooking up your cell phone to the charger at night, a charging effect to allow this to come in through your optic nerve, goes into the brain, and you're getting a deposit, an energetic deposit, which will stimulate the mitochondria, will stimulate your immune function. You got to stop after the first 30 minutes. If you don't, you'll harm your eyes.
Yeah.
And there are methods out there that allow you to go up to 2 hours after. And there was a documentary called Eat the Sun. The guy who was depressed, got sick.
Yeah.
And the sun gazing cures depression. And his eyes got sick.
Yeah.
Doctors yelled at him. He stopped. The man who he learned from, for whatever reason, can still do it. And his eyes haven't not got damaged, but he lets you go 10 seconds, next day 10 more seconds. But the average person will get harmed.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful on the safety of it. You will get certain phenomenon happening as you move forward with it. As your bank account gets stronger in your brain, you have a opportunity to get this enhanced connectivity that is giving you basically a stronger computer, a wider bandwidth. So your awareness, you will see more out there. What we see is not all that's out there. There's a lot more to see. You become more intuitive. You can actually look at someone and decode their light emission, their bioluminescence, which is giving you information on how well they are. And this is an ongoing process that takes quite a while because most of the activities we engage in are depleting our reserves. So if you're so inclined and you have weather permitting, you can go out and do this as often as you can, and it's very, very safe.
Yeah. And we want to be clear, obviously, you're not looking at the sun midday.
No,
right?
you can go blind.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Now a qualified Qigong master can do that because he has built himself up.
Gotcha.
And that's how you can get the fakers out.
Yeah.
He said, let's go out and do Sungazing.
Yeah.
So the point is there are, like the Sikhs, the Sikh religion uses Sungazing as like their sacrament.
Yeah.
I actually have a book written by a Sikh medical doctor explaining the Sungazing.
Oh, wow.
The Mayans, the Incas, all these primitive peoples have engaged in that. So again, like I said, it's thousands of years old.
Yeah. I saw someone say, we are the first civilization to not worship the sun. We are actually fearing the sun.
Right. You know? Well, we have been told to put on a sunscreen to cover up, hide from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you will engage in a deficiency syndrome. It's just like working in a high rise. You're not standing on the earth. You're not grounding. You're not earthing. You're becoming depleted of that magnetic influence that will not enhance you. It will make you weaker.
Yeah.
So these are ancient things that are much needed today to help everyone tune up.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned magnets, right? So I want to get into magnet therapy. William Philpott was a big, influence on this. And so what is magnet therapy? I know I've been sleeping on a magnet mattress my entire life because of you.
Right, great.
So tell us, what is magnet therapy? And then I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about Philpott.
Yeah, right. So I was in college, and again, I was looking for all these things to enhance myself, right?
Yeah.
So I had a friend that had these magnet beds and the beautiful ornate sheets and the comforters, all this, beautiful sequins and all that. It was $5,000, which I didn't have, but they would finance it. So I said, great, I want this.
Yeah.
And their sales marketing information sounded very legitimate. I was naive. I didn't do my own research. I thought, great. This company was doing $1 billion a year in sales. They began to use these magnetic pads for the horse racing industry to help horses with pain, get them out of pain. So you have a horse, you wrap a blanket over them at night, or you wrap their legs with these magnets, and it helps them. So I'm all excited. I get my bed, I'm sleeping on a couple months, and I see electromagnetic healing given by this Dr. William Philpott, who's a psychiatrist, medical doctor. So I went. It was in West Palm Beach. So he said, welcome, everyone. I just got back. I sued for the third time. I sued this company, Nikan, and won because I can prove that they're harming people. He said, I just wrote a book called Brain Allergies, where I was taking the most severe psychotic schizophrenic patients and reversing them using a protocol of food allergy testing and magnetic healing. So I said, wait a minute, Nikan, why do I know that name? And I said, oh my God.
That's what you've been sleeping on.
I just spent $5,000 and probably financing. It was $7,000 or more. Money I didn't have. I got the wrong polarity in my bed. They use the north and south together.
Mm.
You don't want the South Pole. You only want the North Pole.
Mm-hmm.
That's an irritant, positive magnetic field. It stimulates the growth of microorganisms. So I'm saying, I got to return this thing. So I call up the company. They say, well, you can't return it because it's bedding. Sorry, it's yours.
Yeah.
There's no, read the fine print in the contract. You can't return it. So I'm saying, okay, well, this was a very expensive learning experience for me. So then he manufactured his own negative only pads and beds in varying sizes to treat different areas. So I got his and then got his book. I would call this guy up all the time. He's more than happy to talk to me because I was, again, in this total state of disbelief that, here's a better version, So I learned the hard way. And what I found out, the same thing with Qigong. You want to be stimulating your negative magnetic information to produce oxygen. So a negative magnetic field, a north pole of a magnet, makes the electron spin counterclockwise. Mm-hmm. It's like a whirlpool pulling in oxygen. A positive field disperses it. Mm-hmm. It's counterproductive to what you're trying to accomplish. It produces inflammation, stimulates the ATP of microorganisms. Mm-hmm. So anytime you engage in any magnetic therapy, now there's a whole lot of devices out there that are using a mixed field. You have to be careful. It doesn't happen overnight, but you will start stimulating microorganism growth. Like he said, go to the drugstore, you have like the Dr. Scholl's foot care area. You can buy shoe inserts. Put in your shoes. Say you have sore feet. Say you have a fungal infection on your nails and your toenails. You put one of these north and south, and all the industry does that. It's just the standard. He said that fungal infection is going to get worse. That positive magnetic influence with the South Pole that's basing your foot is going to stimulate the growth of that fungus.
Wow.
So this guy had all kinds of studies proving that. And in his book, he was reversing, like I said, the worst case of schizophrenic. And these are the worst, like people that will be institutionalized their entire life.
Yeah.
Putting them on water for 7 days to clear the inflammation of the gut and brain. Then test the food. Each meal was one single food. They measured blood sugar before and after, and the foods that spiked the blood sugar would bring the symptoms right back. Then he used the magnets on the brain and the negatively charged ozone to clear the symptom, go through all the foods that they would consume on a regular basis because it was the most frequently eaten food that would create the allergy response, dropping the oxygen, keeping them in that compromised state, and got all these amazing cures. So to reduce oxygen, positive magnetic field, acid lifestyle. To increase oxygen, you want a negative magnetic field, alkaline lifestyle. And that's been proven in science. The enzymes that release oxygen are alkaline, pH, negative magnetic field dependent. So if you put all the pieces together, you reduce inflammation, you slow down the aging process. We're all going to die, but you slow it down, and you're going to have a longer shelf life with less suffering.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. So I want to go into a little bit more into diet and nutrition. Right. So you said you are a proponent of a more vegan, plant-based diet, right? So I guess what is your ideal diet?
Well, there really is none. So in other words, what I found from this Dr. Philpott is all the books written have their plan, and their plan is better than the guy that wrote the book last week.
Yep.
And everyone rushes to buy the book. They're all bestsellers.
They want to make the money.
You eat a certain way. I eat a certain way. I'm consuming things, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. The more frequently I eat it, there's a greater likelihood that I'm provoking an allergy acid response by spiking my blood sugar. You don't want blood sugar to spike. So everyone has insulin resistance and moving towards this diabetic problem. So after many phone calls to him, he said, you have to get to your personal addiction, your personal allergy response. Now, in the book, what made him write the book, he had a father, a very wealthy man, bring his son in who was a very sick kid, psychotic schizophrenic. They did the food allergy testing. Came out that the salad he ate every day was the trigger food that kept him a complete mental psychotic schizophrenic case. The father was so amazed, gave him all this money, $6 million to do a study. Went to the university that Dr. Philpott was at. They stole the money, but he still did the study. Wrote the book, Brain Allergies. So the point is, say you eat broccoli, it might make you feel like $1 million. For me, it might give me severe anxiety. It might give me that incredible pain in my neck that I can't get rid of. It might make me angry. Whatever the symptomology is, these trigger foods, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, technically on paper, in your body might be your poison. So the answer is figure out your personal trigger foods that are irritating your oxygen availability, making you more acid, driving you more into a positive magnetic field, allowing microorganisms to grow. So no matter what your complaint is, that's the domino effect. So you have to determine that through measuring blood sugar. Now today they have the continuous glucose monitors that you can get your reading on your cell phone. So that one diet doesn't fit all. You must, and the challenge is everyone wants to eat what they want to eat. It's an addiction. It's hard to break addictions. So getting that accomplished is really challenging for most people. So they never really do it.
Okay. So, all right. So one diet may not fit all, but
so generally the parameters is you want a high mineral based
Okay.
So all acid food, whether it's grain or meat,
Mhm.
is acid, not providing minerals.
Mhm.
Now, even the organic produce is not giving you the same amount of minerals that it should,
Mhm.
like you could get 40 years ago. So everyone's still coming up short. So they're still getting inflamed, and the bone density will reflect that. If you have bone density issues, you've been on an acid diet.
Mhm.
Or if you have calcification issues, you've been on an acid diet.
Yeah.
So there's roundabout ways to determine that.
Mhm.
But unless you're consuming seaweed, spirulina, chlorella, phytoplankton on a daily basis, high negative ORP water,
Mhm.
doing cleansing, deep breathing, Qigong, stretching, chances are you're not measuring up.
Yeah.
So that brings us full circle again to
Yeah.
what you're trying to accomplish with all of this,
Mhm.
to provide an anti-inflammatory, low stress
Yeah.
opportunity for yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So like a lot on social media. I know you're not really on social media, but I see it for myself. A lot of people promote an animal-based diet, and they claim that they're striving on it, right? So So do you think someone can strive on an animal-based
Yeah,
diet?
because it's a food allergy concept. So in other words, if you're eating now differently,
Yeah.
you're removing some of those foods that you ate too often
Mhm.
that were triggering your lower energy, your allergy response.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So in essence, it's a food elimination
Yeah.
idea without the intention being a food elimination idea. They're saying, okay, I'm eating all this protein, I'm feeling great. Problem is, there's no fiber in that.
Mhm.
So now you have a younger generation getting more colon cancer than the older generation on this type of approach.
Mhm.
Also, the keto diet originally in the 50s was given to epileptics because it's a low mold diet. In other words, all the molds are in the fat. You
Yeah.
generally trim the big fat layer off a steak.
Mhm.
You eat lean chicken breast.
Mhm.
You don't want a big fatty piece to it.
Yeah.
If you're eating the lean muscle fibers, you're reducing the mold quantity that's coming into your body.
Mhm.
So yes, you get leaner, you get stronger because now you're forcing osmotically more amino acids into your cells. But the dirty little secret is you're getting your gut more toxic.
Yeah.
You're generating more mucus production.
Mhm.
You're creating less absorption in the villi and small intestine. You're getting more microorganisms growing, and you're getting more plugged up. The CRP is elevating, and unless you're monitoring that, you're down the road. It doesn't happen overnight, but down the road, you will have some issues.
Mhm. Wow. A lot to unpack there. How about let's talk about the mold real quick. So fruit. I know you had a problem with eating too much fruit.
Right. So I had a store. I would get this beautiful delivery, all the vegetables, the fruit. I mean, it's just gorgeous stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you just want to eat it all. So
Yeah.
I would have these
Tastes
big
so
fruit
good.
smoothies.
Uh-huh.
Because again, that was something healthy, right? Natural. These big raw fruit pies. I could never get my cholesterol under 200, and I was very confused on why. I didn't know
Start
there
a
was
vegan diet or a
vegan diet.
Yeah.
Grain. So you cut out all the meat, all the dairy and cheese. What's left? You get grain, get fruit, get vegetables, seeds, nuts.
Mhm.
So I figured, these are fine. I don't have any problem.
Yeah.
Little did I know, I was actually creating the same problem I did on my high protein diet.
Mhm.
A inflammatory process from a fungal accelerated growth by a different mechanism.
Yeah.
So when I found this book, Fungal Bionics, that highlighted the fact that although I'm doing something completely different, I'm still doing the same harm to myself because I'm stimulating the growth of these microorganisms through overconsumption of these things. So the answer is check your personal inflammatory index, cut back enough in these different categories to make the difference.
Mhm.
But living on a fruit diet, you can do it for cleansing if you want to do a week, but ongoing can produce problems.
Yeah.
It's pro-inflammatory.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. All right. So we got the mold down. Let's talk about organic versus non-organic. A lot of people think let's buy organic because there's no pesticides.
Right.
Right.
Which is
What
true.
is your perspective?
Okay, so I thought that for many years.
Yeah.
When I had an opportunity to have my little store, I said, okay, organic's the way. There's no question about it. I went to a guy when they had farms in Boynton, Hyperlux, and was all developed homes.
Yeah.
This unbelievably strong-looking 90-year-old farmer gets off his old red tractor and says, Today I got cucumbers. You can give you a couple cases. I said, great. He said, and Whole Foods, I was at Whole Foods, it was $4 a cucumber for organic cucumber. He said, I don't like this organic stuff because guess what? There's parasites on those cucumbers. I said, what do you mean? He said, they use cow manure to fertilize organic food, and there's parasites in the cow manure, and that's getting on the food.
Yeah.
And you're eating the food. If you're eating it raw or juicing it in your body, causing you harm. I said, wait a minute. But, back up. Like, this is another shocker to me, Yeah. So he said, yeah, it's real deal. He said, I use liquid seaweed that I spray. The other guys just have a liquid manure pit. That's what they spray. The difference in my food, you're not going to get parasites. You can eat it raw if you want. So I said, you kidding me? So that was like, I went home. I said, this guy's got to be out of his mind. So then I started looking at that, and it was real.
Yeah.
So you Google on your phone, does organic food have more parasites than non-organic? It says yes.
Yeah.
So then what do? Now there's more minerals, although not as much as you would like. It's better than the regular grown from a point of view of minerals. The problem is, if you're eating it raw, you're getting a detriment, not a health enhancement. You got to cook that to kill the
parasites,
primitive microorganisms, and they're all in there.
Yeah.
It's a guarantee, and then we all have them.
Yeah.
You can take it to the bank. It's how good is your immune system today, keeping you ahead of that curve. Next month, you might have a problem. Next year, you might have a problem. These things are doing their cohabitation with us. They are pooping out their waste product. That's what calcification is.
So, all right. So when we're buying organic produce, we want to cook it to kill the parasites.
If we're make soup out of it.
Yeah.
However, saute, roast it, wok it, whatever.
And so then if we're eating it raw, we can do organic. And
if you have to have raw, you're better off with non-organic. Now you get more pesticides, but you can sweat them out in the sauna. Or you can do other things.
Yeah.
But the hierarchy of bad things, parasites are worse than pesticides. Not that they're great for you, but it's a lesser of two evils. It's a lot easier to get pesticide out of you than a parasite.
Yeah.
A pesticide doesn't lay 100,000 eggs a day.
Yeah.
You have certain parasites, you got family members, you got grandchildren, you got great-grandchildren that are being born in you. And as you go forward in your shallow breathing, your high-protein diet, your high-intensity exercise, although you're looking more gorgeous outside, inside, you just have more friends growing in your gut.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. You mentioned gut. Let's talk a little bit about gut health. So, what do you think is the best way to improve our gut health? And then also, so I know a low protein diet is better. Yeah.
For a person that's say eating 300 grams a day, they're going to feel unwell.
Yeah.
Because they've compromised their gut to such a point where they're not getting the absorption.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So unless you're cleaning out that sludge factor, that biofilm, which is the technical term for it, that these bugs like to warehouse in, you're not going to get the absorptive capacity.
Yeah.
So the answer is reduce that mucoid plaque. If you look at the picture of a villi, the small intestine, that's the absorptive little tentacles, but they get all gummed over with this mucoid plaque that's only protective in response to consuming an acid food. So the key is clean it out. You can get by with less protein intake to get greater absorption. So the net effect, you're actually getting more amino acids
with less protein.
Yeah. So it's a much more efficient way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So and you're not getting the negative effects of the higher protein.
Right. Which is also creating zombie cells, which are not quite dead, but they're not thriving either. And they ooze their contents, which is very pro-inflammatory.
Yeah.
And there was just a study, I saved it and read it. That's the real problem with cancer, zombie cells. So it takes a lot longer to happen, but that protein eventually will compromise your health.
Yeah. Yeah.
So clean your gut if you're so inclined, but not everyone wants to do that either because it's not, not so pleasant.
Yeah. All right. I want to quickly just mention this one thing that people think is a superfood, and that's mushrooms.
Okay.
Right. So tell us your perspective on mushrooms. Should we be eating it? Should we not be eating it?
Okay, so then when I got into this fungal bionic research, the doctor that wrote the book said any microbial product, which a mushroom is a fungus,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a vegetable, it's a fungus, it's a fruiting body of a fungus, cuts both ways. And I said, wow, that's really interesting because Chinese medicine says if you have an immune system, you have cancer, an immune system problem, take these medicinal mushrooms.
Yeah.
Shiitake, maitake, all these beneficial things. He said, well, yes, you do get a benefit. Just like you have a bacterial infection, you take an antibiotic, that will kill the infection. But guess what? You have a side effect of that antibiotic because it's a fungal toxin.
Yeah.
It cuts both ways. You're not walking clean.
Yeah.
So I said, wow, that's really interesting. So he said, that's not my idea. That's Dr. Toth, T-O-T-H. Dr. Toth is a mushroom fungal researcher, has a book like the side when we used to have fungal books that thick. They used to publish it here in Boca, the CRC Press. You can get it.
Okay.
Every supplement now, lion's mane, all these mushrooms are being promoted as healthful, which there is a benefit. No one's talking about side effects. We know the side effects of antibiotic. That's widely accepted as being okay.
Yeah.
And true. That in the mushroom world hasn't exactly happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be careful with that, not to consume too much, or you will have a fungal overgrowth
Mm-hmm.
that will come back to haunt you.
Mm-hmm. So
now that's not my idea.
Yeah.
This is the life's research of this Dr. Toss that wrote that book.
Yeah.
That the fungal bionics guys that have this World Collaborative Center referenced. So you can go to either sources for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So perhaps maybe people should be limiting their exposure.
Right. So in other words, do a gut evaluation. Check your microbial status.
Mm-hmm.
See what type of population is good, what type of population is bad. If you have more of the bad, you better get to work to get more good.
Yeah. Awesome.
And that will be one way to help.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. So to wrap things up, because we're getting close to the time, I want to just kind of give people some practical steps, and we've talked a lot about them, but I'm just going to sum up some of the stuff we did talk about. We talked about AIS, active isolated stretching, talked about Qigong, grounding a little bit, magnet therapy, sun gazing, whole foods, plant-based, slow movements. I also want to just add a few other things, and if you want to kind of just talk a little bit about them, you can, feel free. Infrared saunas, bentonite psyllium, we have enemas, essential oils, Epsom salt baths. So I don't know if you want to just maybe
so all
pick
these
one.
things are helpful to reduce the inventory of unwanted things in you.
Mm-hmm.
Bentonite clay is a very negatively charged particle.
Mm-hmm.
Any of these acids that accumulate are causing you harm.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to remove that. Bentonite accomplishes that goal. Just like the negative ORP water helps you to reduce the intracellular acidification. That's where the real damage is happening. Your mitochondria are being burnt out. Your batteries are being annihilated one by one. There can be thousands of mitochondria in a cell. You cross the line one day where you have a problem, you got a health problem. So these things are helpful. The sauna is helpful to reduce pesticides, chemicals, heavy metals. Mm-hmm. But again, you got to replenish your electrolytes in your water and support your liver function. So all these things are valuable tools that can be beneficial.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. So the very last thing, I know, like, kind of saying all the things that we are saying, it may be overwhelming for someone to hear about. Well, I'm doing cardio and now I'm hearing that's bad for me. And, I'm doing all these different things that maybe are not the best for me, right? So it might be a little bit overwhelming. So why don't we, if you can, just to sum things up, let's say someone who is just starting in their health journey, right? They are in a standard American lifestyle and diet, and they want to feel better, and they're just starting their health journey. Maybe just like 5 things that they can start that's easy. Obviously, they might not go buy an infrared sauna right away, right? Just 5 simple.
So basically, generate awareness of what is stressing you. Okay. Could be your work environment. Could be your home environment. Could be the guy that you carpool with. Could be a student you have to sit next to in class. Could be anything. Could be old thoughts that are coming back to haunt you. Learn how to recognize these things. If you're an exercise person, you may not recognize that you're harming yourself with higher intensity. You can bump back, you can research it a little bit, see that it is reality, lessen the intensity somewhat. Neutralize your acid. If you can afford it, do some of these tests to see how deficient you are. If you can't afford it, purchase some whole green foods, spirulina, chlorella, wheatgrass, phytoplankton, seaweed. Eat a more alkaline approach. Breathe deeper. Try to take a break from your to-do list where you're constantly on go mode. If that means take a walk, breathe deeply, whatever you do, learn to meditate. A lot of people struggle with that because they can't slow down their brain. So basically, take a break from food. Intermittent fasting is very popular. Try to work on that. Try to create a awareness of how you're being stressed. Reduce the stress. Stress is the genesis of all disease. If you can accomplish this goal, you will benefit immeasurably.
Yeah.
So that would kind of be a general recommendation.
That's amazing. I think that's really helpful. And we covered a lot of stuff. Of course, so much more stuff we can go down to and talk about, but it was great having you on.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. So there's each little category we spoke about, we can certainly do more and
do a whole podcast just on
there's so much science to support all of these positions that people sometimes need a little bit more convincing to bring them to come around but you do what you can. Whatever movable parts are movable for you.
And I'm gonna put a bunch of links that we have talked about. A bunch of I'll put the magnet therapy website on, the sauna website, all that kind of stuff in the show notes, so people have access to, and hopefully they'll check.
Yeah, awesome. Well, people, let's put it this way: you can certainly do better for yourself. Yeah. And in today's world, it's a much needed thing.
100%.
So appreciate it.
Thank you so much, John.
All right.
Thank you for joining me in today's discussion with John Galamaga. As mentioned in the introduction, due to our limited time and the vast array of important topics, we only scratched the surface. I would love to hear your feedback on the episode, and if there's any specific topics we discussed today that you would like us to dive deeper into in future episodes, please let me know. And to share your thoughts or suggest topics, feel free to message me on Instagram. You can find the link in the show notes. Additionally, the show notes includes all the scientific references, books, and individuals John mentioned, so you can explore the topics we discussed in greater detail. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the podcast, reach out to me as well. I'm always looking for new voices and perspectives to feature. Stay tuned for future episodes where we'll continue to bring you insightful conversations with others like John. Until then, keep questioning, stay curious, and take steps towards a healthier life. Thank you for listening.